Hey, welcome back to Apostles of Reason. As someone with a background in evangelical Christianity and being a naturally inquisitive person, I've always wondered what the theological and philosophical concepts like underpinning my faith were, and what those were of the opposite belief of atheism and agnosticism, etc. So, as I've gone on this journey, I've looked at a lot of debates and tried to understand the best arguments from each side. And my conclusion obviously came to that Christianity had the best answers to a lot of these important philosophical and theological questions. And I think this debate that I'm going to go over today kind of illustrates one of those points that I really honed in on earlier in my life. And I'm hoping this can help convince you guys, or at least show you where some Christians might be coming from a philosophical standpoint on a lot of these issues. So this debate is James White and Jeff Durbin versus Dan Ellis and Dr. Clark. And the debate topic is if the triune God exists or not. But really, what we're really going to be honing in here on this video is when they get to the grounding objection for a lot of different metaphysical issues. And so we're going to let it play, and I'm going to have a couple comments in between. If you want to check the full video, it'll be in the description, but let's go ahead and get to it.
Have an answer, sir.
Inductive logic is imperfect, and it does not provide 100%.
So you have no
certainty.
answer to Bertrand Russell's problem of induction.
My answer is inductive logic is not imperfect.
I didn't say inductive logic, sir. I said the problem of induction, the uniformity in nature, not merely inductive logic.
God in it provides no explanation whatsoever that's not already in its assumption, and one could just as well say Godzilla did it, and if you want to explain why Godzilla didn't do it, then go right ahead. But that answer is self-referential and empty.
Dr. Clark, our question is about your methodology, your criticisms, and your worldview and the consistency thereof.
I understand your questions want to be about a change in the debate topic.
It's not has nothing to do with changing the debate topic, sir.
It very much is. Okay,
for example, Godzilla.
I'll give an answer, and you can show me that it's about it. Godzilla is all-powerful. You're not allowed to question his existence because he is your creator. This is their argument. And therefore, the fact that logic exists, that inductive logic exists, is proof that Godzilla exists.
So, Dr. Clark, you've now abandoned atheism and you're a Godzillaite?
I am saying that those are equally
Can you provide
useless.
now a justification with Godzillaism for a principle of induction?
Now, Dr. Clark is likely attempting to filibuster here because he probably doesn't have a solution to the problem that he holds to. And this is a problem for atheism, as theists have a pretty clear solution to the problem, which would be that there's an unchanging ultimate deity that put these laws of motion and physics into place, and he maintains them through his power and his will. And because God is unchanging, the uniformity of nature is to be expected. If we take a look at the atheist view on this, there's a few different solutions that have been proposed, but there isn't a consensus among the atheist community on this. There's evolutionary solutions that have been proposed. There's pragmatic solutions that have been proposed, as well as some that are more based on observational, which tend to get into circular reasoning. But regardless, he would need to answer with one of these solutions in order to actually drill down into how it actually works out, logically speaking. And he doesn't want to do that because he doesn't have a good answer to the question here.
And
Thank
somehow
you,
wants to pay you.
Next
to
question.
keep preaching.
Next question.
Do you want to know my answer?
I would, Dan. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure, thanks.
Yes.
I would just say that I have no idea. I don't know. Bertrand Russell himself didn't know.
So,
he's a hell of a lot smarter than I am.
Dan, you live by faith?
No, I don't.
Would you say that you have confidence in the principle of induction?
Sure.
So you are with faith?
No, I am not with faith.
Confide with faith.
Confidence means with
well,
faith.
It depends. I mean, that's a loaded term, right? Give me your definition of faith.
Well, you have trust, but there are different types of trust. There's trust with evidence, with justification, and then there's blind, ignorant trust. You have no basis to believe that the laws of logic are uniform. You have no basis to believe that the next 5 seconds you won't float away to the ceiling because you just depend on faith.
Or
You
that
have
God
no
could maybe do that. I mean, if
you do
I can't explain to you why you can't seem to grasp that or why you don't understand
Dan,
evolution, but that's not my
Dan,
problem.
do you
That's your
believe
problem.
fish became philosophers through a long result of random
No, fish do not become
mutations?
philosophers.
So
I'll say it again. Fish do not become
So
philosophers.
do you believe
Humans
that you are?
do.
You believe you were descended from fish somewhere in the chain?
I don't know that I came from fish.
Would you agree with...
In a long causal chain of evolution, yes, early ancestors were not land-roving people.
Were they fish?
Were my ancestors fish?
Yes.
Yes, so were yours.
So you do believe your ancestors were fish? Finally, we have that down now. Good. Thank you, Dan.
You're very welcome.
Dan, do you eat fish?
I have a lot of people who actually study evolution really, really carefully that I'd be happy to point you to some of their work.
Happy to read them.
Explain it to you.
Now, Dan, do you eat fish?
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
Dan, if you have ancestors who are fish and you eat fish today, let me ask you a question. What's the distinction between you and other random results of evolutionary processes? Why do you uphold human valuing dignity above, say, snails, horses, dogs, and rocks?
Well, I have yet to see a horse that could reason as well as I can.
So if it reasons better, it is more valuable and has more dignity?
Not necessarily, no, but I think it holds more weight, right? Like, so say that a rock isn't as important as a human being or anything else,
Because it's
right?
not the image of God, I would
it's
say.
a rock.
Yeah.
Oh, a rock is, I'm sorry, say that again?
We would say the rock is not an image, is not the image of God. Human beings are the image of God. So on what basis well, let me ask it this way. You say
Sure.
if it reasons better, it has more value. What if a segment of humanity grows large and draws a smaller circle around themselves and say, we reason better than your group, therefore we'll exterminate you? Are they right for doing that?
I think we would need to be able to have a way to test those claims, and they would have to be able to demonstrate that their claims are more correct.
So it's
That's how we do
possible,
that.
it is possible for a segment of humanity to draw a smaller circle around their group and exterminate other groups.
Not only is it possible, we see it happen way too often.
Right.
Is it wrong?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Is it absolutely morally wrong?
Tell me what you mean by absolutely
Is it an
morally
ought that
wrong.
exists outside of my own preferences and my own likes and dislikes? Is it something that's true whether I like it or not?
Well, as I've said, I believe that the laws of logic exist.
We're talking about ethics,
Okay.
not laws of logic.
Okay, are you saying that is there an absolute ethical standard in
Let me
like
ask you-
some ultimate
could I quote
ethical
you?
standard,
You
right?
specifically said, we don't need an invisible sky fairy to tell us we are to be good to each other. So given that Stalin and Mao were both atheists and were responsible for hundreds of millions of deaths, why didn't they need a sky fairy to tell them what to do in light of what you're saying? Is there an absolute moral standard that says Auschwitz was wrong? That
I do
Mao
not
was
know.
wrong?
I do not know if there's an absolute moral standard that says Auschwitz was wrong.
So how can you
make the
condemn
claim,
them?
But you've not offered us any evidence for that claim. You've simply asserted that your God exists.
If there
What
was
is-
an empty,
what is
if
the
there was
evidence of the existence?
okay, you can
for
ask.
your
You
God?
can ask us. It's your turn.
Sure.
But when you say what you said right now, do you not see a difference between our saying that there is an empty tomb that was prophesied beforehand, and the one who came out of that tomb gave us his law, and your argument for Godzillism?
That's not my argument.
Oh, okay. So there's a
I mean, it
division
would
on
be
the other
great- it would
side.
be great
Okay.
if you-
All right.
if you didn't strong
All
man
right,
my position.
all right.
Or tell me what my position
Dr.
is.
Clark's
You're welcome
position.
to ask
Okay,
me what it is.
Okay.
That would be great.
Okay. So, may I ask?
Go ahead.
Okay. So another question, since off the issue of the uniformity in nature and the principle of induction, what are the laws of logic and how are they justified?
There's the law. Let me look them up here just so that I don't mess it up.
You don't have to go through the different distinctions in laws and categories, but what are they in an atheistic perspective? We argued in the opening statement that the laws of logic reflect the thinking of God. God is unchanging. God cannot lie. Therefore, God cannot engage in logical contradiction. We have a principium, a reference point, a standard outside of ourselves for universal, abstract, unchanging laws of thought that God imposes upon creation and expects us to think about. What is your justification, Dan?
I'm saying that you don't have justification for that, or at least you haven't demonstrated it.
You can ask that question, but what is your
I'm
justification?
not asking a question, I'm making a statement.
Right.
You're asserting that this is the case. You have yet to offer any evidence for that.
The question being asked of you in cross-examination right now is what are the laws of logic from an atheistic perspective and how are they justified in your worldview?
They're justified under my worldview because they comport with the reality in which I find myself.
Are they material in nature?
No, I don't believe so.
So laws of logic are not material in nature. So
No,
you
numbers are not either.
So very
But
good.
they
So
exist.
okay, so you do believe there are immaterial aspects to reality.
There are abstract concepts with which we can think about how the world works through using those abstract
Are these
concepts.
abstract
Yes.
concepts conventional in nature?
Tell me what you mean by conventional
Do
in
we
nature.
determine and stipulate as humans what these laws of logic are? Are they conventional? We determine what they are.
I don't understand your question still.
Laws of logic, do they exist? Do they exist? Are they real?
I just told you I think they're abstract concepts.
Okay, are these abstract concepts things that humans by convention have merely stipulated, or are they things that exist?
Would they be
as-
true without human beings?
There you go.
I believe that they would be. Yeah, I believe that they would be here whether human beings were here or not. But I mean, if they were here and no human was around to observe them, then it's a fun thing to think
Thank
about.
you, Dan. No, I appreciate that very
yeah.
much. So, what would be your justification for appealing to immaterial abstract universals, given your materialism?
Can you ask me that again?
Sure. As an atheist, I assume you're a materialist.
Yes.
Okay, so you believe all that exists is matter.
That's all that I've been able to have any demonstration for.
Okay, so
its
on what
existence,
basis
yes.
are you holding to immaterial laws?
Because you just said you believe the laws of logic are immaterial. So
Yeah,
where do
I
they come
believe,
from?
I believe numbers are immaterial also, but I also
We
believe
agree.
that they are useful and exist
And we agree. And
Then
we
where do they
believe-
come from?
Yeah, so where'd they come from?
from human thought.
So as you can see here at the end, this proves to be a difficult question to answer for Dan Ellis, as he went back on his own words a couple times here. And this basically just illustrates the idea that the universal applicability of a lot of these rules, as far as morality, mathematics, ethics, the uniformity of nature, all these things need to be grounded in something for us to be able to justify its existence or its truth. And Christians have a better answer to this question. It's because God is an unchanging, unmoved mover. He is the ultimately great being that put everything into existence and caused those things to be the way they are, and nature reflects his rationality and his unchanging nature. And that's why there is a universal applicability of scientific rules as well as morality and ethics. When it comes to a naturalist view, you're going to have a harder time explaining it. And Dan Ellis didn't even pick which which view he accepted here. But that's going to be it for this one. I really thought this video helped illustrate that Christianity has better answers for the grounding of a lot of these metaphysical truths that many people seem to accept, and that atheists do seem to have a hard time grounding a lot of these truths, using naturalism especially. But I just thought it was interesting, so thanks for hopping in. Stay here for the next one. We're going to go to a part 2 of the same debate.